book. So we've done a note that we'd quite like to hand out on things like consultation, so we can clear up some of the misconceptions that there might be, because actually you're absolutely right, Ian, it is the most expensive thing Amey can do is take down a tree and replace it with another one, so there's no incentive for them to do any of that sort of stuff whatsoever. So on the consultation we do a range of things. We do community roadshows, and no area, I don't think any council in the country has got the consultation that it can do on this sort of stuff right. We do community roadshows, we do an awful lot of community roadshows when we're looking at tree issues. We do letters to people in the immediate vicinity, and maybe we could do those more broadly, but we do a range of letters nearly all of the time, and we hold meetings as well. Now, I'm sure...
Can you expand on that?
On which bit?
What I suggest we do is just let Jack have 2 or 3 minutes to speak, because you know it's not actually your meeting, Jack. So just 2 or 3 minutes, and then let's have comments. I think that would be a useful thing. Okay, so there's a gentleman there and a gentleman there who I'm sure will want to comment on what's being said. Okay. I
suppose the point I did want to make was about local democracy. To be really, really clear, because a lot of people say this is the subverting of local democracy. I'm in charge of our 36,000 trees on our highways in Sheffield, okay? There is absolutely, if anything, there is clearer democratic accountability than there's been before, because they are council trees, and it is a council contract, and it is us who are in charge, and Amey do what we instruct them to do, effectively. So I want to be really clear about that and lay any consensus. In terms of who you speak to, actually you come to the elected representatives if you can't get anything any quicker. So on the consultation, we could always do more on that. I have to say the difficulty on consultation is I represent Arthurthorne Ward, and I know that if I went and asked people about the trees on bits of the Arthurthorne estate, they would say, take them all out straight away. You know, and so actually the difficulty with consultation is if you ask 2 people, you will often get 2 answers. And if you ask 4 people, you might get 6 answers. And that is part of the difficulty that we've got to manage, is that different people have very different views on trees. So some people do not want trees. They think they drop fruit, they're sticky, they create mess, they block out shade. And as a democratic organisation, we've got to take account and balance a whole range of issues that go with our highways trees. So you're absolutely right about how important they are. That's why we've said that every tree that comes out gets replaced. But there are other issues to think about as well, because actually people, when you consult people, you won't get the sort of uniform answers we've had today and tonight. You get a very different range of views, and that's part of what a democratically elected politician's job is to do, is to balance some of those.
Okay, thank you very much. That's lovely, thanks. So we've got the gentleman in green and the gentleman at the far end there, and then this lady here. Thanks.
Okay, well I live on Edmund Road, and we had all of our trees taken out this summer, and it's very, it's quite difficult to listen to what I just heard. We had no letters whatsoever. The notification that we had, and let's not talk about consultation, let's just talk about how you handle notification. The notification we had was signs going up on the trees saying they will be taken out in 2 weeks' time. Right? That meant, is it Jack? I hope you hear this. That meant my wife and daughter walked to nursery crying for 15 minutes. And the next day they walked to nursery crying at the prospect of the trees being taken out. So it also is quite difficult to hear also Ian talking about the small trees having just visual appeal. Yes, maybe, but actually for us, the small trees are also irreplaceable. That tree outside our house, that was the tree that, you know, with our 3-year-old, we saw the collared doves in. That's the tree that we get to talk about the seasons changing. And so there is a subjective irreplaceability, which I think is important. One of the things, our experience of what then happened, and you know, thanks Gillian and Rob, who responded very quickly when we contacted them. But even then, we felt that there was some wool being pulled over people's eyes about what was going on, because we were being told all the trees need to come out and they're damaging pavements. We could see that was true of some of the trees, but it wasn't true of all of the trees. There was a cherry tree across the way, the tree outside our house. It wasn't true. And what it felt like it was, we've got the repaving going on, it's much cheaper and much simpler just to take all the trees out, rather than take out the trees that need to come out, replant those, and then think about the others. And it was just slash and burn. We also overheard an Amey worker saying, why are we taking these trees out? These are against our guidelines to come out. So we're left wondering what on earth was going on. That was this about money? Is this about actually you put in a small pear tree that's going to be replaced by, and we don't even know whether they'll survive, you know, but we just put it in a small pear tree. Is that cheaper for the next 5 or 10 years than having to every couple of years come pollard or cut the trees that were there before. Now, it may be that there's answers to that, but we have no answers. All we're left with is our trees are gone. We then, we went away because we didn't want our daughter to witness the trees being cut down and to have the stumps being ground out. So we just went and went count. We came back, and the shock of coming to that road and there were no trees anymore. They're just gone. Now, I do not think it's right. It's enough notification to do it in that way and not to give us time to adjust. I don't think you understand the relationship we have to the environment that we're in. And I appreciate what's been said, that not everyone in the street, there's loads of students on the street. Would they care? I don't know. Maybe some of the residents would like them to be taken out. But you also have to think about, was that necessary? And even if you had to take them out, one, you didn't have to take them all, and secondly, you could have actually sent us a letter in advance rather than having some notice pinned to the tree. It felt really brutal. I'm sorry if that's a motive, but it was a motive, and we're still living with it.
Thank you.
I'm afraid my situation echoes that situation almost identically. There was very little communication at all. There was no communication, no letters to any of the residents. Notices went up on the trees a fortnight before the trees were cut down. The notices were put 8 foot above the ground. I'm 6 foot plus. I had to stand in the road. We were facing the road, so you had to stand in the middle of the road to read them. You couldn't read them. The trees were cut down. And there were 6 trees on the street when we moved on there. There are now none. There's been no consultation about the type of trees that are going to be replaced. I believe it's ornamental pears. I don't know if I don't know if the ornamental pear is, or how suitable that is, or why these trees are only about 20 years old, 20 years old. They were planted by the council for a specific purpose. One of the Amey workers said if they'd been maintained, the various problems, which are quite small, I've taken photographs of them, wouldn't have occurred if they'd been pruned, because the root ball wouldn't have got as large. And that was basically the issue that took place. My point is that there's been no consultation since. We don't know which contact. What do we do?
Yeah. Okay, and the lady here.
I agree. I think this has happened on the Gleadless Valley as well, in the case that Ian showed of the tree that was the oak tree that was cut down. There are no lines of communication with the City Council. It takes forever to get in touch. We got in touch, we saw the notice go up on the tree, 2 weeks, it would be felled. We tried to get in touch with the council, which eventually we did. We couldn't see a reason to have cut that tree down at all. It wasn't near housing. It may have had a little bit of disease, but I think it could have been saved, through some management. And eventually the council said that they would give us time to have it. Well, they would get someone to have another look at it. So we thought, fine. Next thing we know, the tree's down and it's stump ground, so we'll never know now. The other thing is, it's so important that local people are consulted, because they know they know what lives in those trees. They know how important trees, grass verges, and areas like that are important, not just to us but to the wildlife that lives there as well. And it's only local people that will know that through and be consulted on it.
Thank you. So Ian wants to come back in, and then